Rob Reed is a senior lecturer in the Department of Education Studies, where he primarily teaches children's literature as well as literature for adolescents. He is the author of 2 picture books for children and 16 resource books for children's literature for teachers, librarians, and parents. He has also written over 100 articles in national magazines and has his own column in Book Links magazine titled Read Aloud Alert, as in read, R-E-I-D. Among his awards, he was chosen as the Wisconsin Librarian of the Year by the Wisconsin Library Association. Next year will be his 20th year at UW-Eau Claire, coinciding with the university centennial. Rob says he's going to pretend that all of the celebrations for that event will really be to celebrate his 20 years. Please help me welcome Rob Reed.
Thank you. Thank you, Rose, and thank you, Wisconsin Public Television, and everybody for showing up today. Well, as author Jim Trelease says about his book, The Read Aloud Handbook, it's not about teaching a child how to read, it's about teaching a child to want to read. Today's topic will focus on ways to get kids excited about the notion of reading, to make literature come alive for them through read-aloud tactics with a bit of music and a bit of storytelling. The Read Aloud Handbook is a treasury that should be in every household, school, and public library. Author Trelease lists research on the impact of reading aloud to young people. One study shows a factor in producing higher achievement in education is related to the frequency of teachers reading aloud to them. Another study shows the same effect from being read at home. The Read Aloud Handbook has several chapters listing studies that support the importance of reading aloud to young people. Now, I'm not going to duplicate his work here for you, but I want to let you know where to find that should you need it. I saw Jim Trelease give a presentation on the topic very early in my career, and it validated my career choice and also enhanced my role as dad to my 4 now grown children and grandpa to my 4 grandkids, and as a children's librarian to hundreds of other folks' kids over the decades. And now here at UW-Eau Claire, working with future teachers and librarians. I have, as you heard, I have written 4 books on read-alouds, all published by the American Library Association. For each of the 2 read-alouds there and the biographies to read aloud with kids, I profile 200 great read-alouds. And with silly books to read aloud, there are even more. As Rose said, I have a column in Book Links magazine where I share more read-aloud recommendations. For the magazine articles and the 2 read aloud books, I also feature something that I call the 10-minute selection. Now, this is something I honed while a children's librarian. I gave many tours to school classes and showing them the different sections of the library, of course, telling them how to get a library card, telling stories, and then always reading a passage to them. Now, of course, I didn't have time to read the whole chapter book, but I wanted to showcase those chapter books. Now, giving a book talk, a mini commercial about different books, is one strategy that librarians use. So I kind of took some elements of that and came up with short standalone passages to read to them. I read lots of children's novels and look for a passage or cobble together a couple of scenes together to make one cohesive passage to point kids in the direction of that particular book. Sometimes the kids are intrigued and they ask to read the whole book. They want to check it out. Sometimes they don't. They want to do something else. That's okay. We just spent some quality literature time together. We planted the seed that reading is fun as well as libraries are fun too. Now, the 10-minute selection can really be anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes long. Each passage needs no or little introduction. The kids will catch on what's going on from the context of the passage. I'm going to start off with a selection from one of our Wisconsin authors, Julie Bovee, and she has a best-selling series out. This is the first book in the series called My Last Best Friend. So imagine yourselves as a group of kids I don't have time to read the whole book. I scoop up some turkey tetrazzini on my fork and think about last summer when Elizabeth and I swapped flip-flops. We never got around to swapping them back before she moved away. I'm right in the middle of remembering how much fun we had gluing pom-poms and plastic lobsters onto those flip-flops when I notice Jenna is glaring at me again. What? I say through my turkey tetrazzini. You know what's in that turkey, don't you? Jenna says back. No, I say, swallowing. I didn't realize there would be a quiz. Jenna just shakes her head. Whore bones, she announces to the other girls. Lots and lots of whore bones. What's that? Stacy asks, poking suspiciously at her food on her tray. That's the stuff that makes turkey so fat, Jenna says, giving me a glance. Then she starts to explain how my turkey spent its whole life inside a crowded pen eating whore bones day and night with all the other unfortunate birds. 3 minutes into Jenna's lecture, I'm wishing I had warned Stacy not to show any interest in anything Jenna has to say, but then I'm trying not to say much of anything at all to Stacy Merriweather. I tune out Jenna's yakking and nibble on my rock-hard biscuit and get a better look at Stacy. She has pretty eyes and pretty evenly spaced teeth and pierced ears. Her hair smells the same way my mom's hair does after she gets a perm. I can't imagine having any friends if I smelled that way. Not that smelling that way is the way I do has gotten me lots of friends. It hasn't. Oh, sure, I have the regular kind of friends, the kind you wander around the playground with, making up excuses together for why you don't want to join the dodgeball game, when really you just don't want to look stupid when the red rubber ball smacks you in the face. But that was before I met Elizabeth. She was the kind of friend who made it worth getting up and going to school every day just so I could sit by her on the bus and play with her at recess. The kind who told me secrets she never told anyone else. The kind of friend I never thought about having to say goodbye to until she all of a sudden decided to move away. As I sit and watch Stacy listen to Jenna's description of her family's summer camping trip, we had to brush our teeth with baking soda and pee in a hole. It was great. I think about Elizabeth and wonder if she's eating lunch at that exact same time, too. I wonder if she's as happy in her new school as Stacy Merriweather seems to be in hers. I want to say, excuse me, Stacy Merriweather, but don't you miss your old best friend at all? But before I have a chance to say anything, I see it, a spitball, right in the middle of my turkey tetrazzini. I look up and see another one fly. This time it lands in Stacy's curly hair. I look around the lunchroom. 2 tables away, Rusty Smith and 2 other 4th grade boys, both named Dylan, are cracking up. A shredded napkin lies in front of Rusty. A straw is in his hands. I look at Stacy again. She's still eating and listening to Jenna talk, but I could tell by the way her eyes stop sparkling that she knows she's being used for target practice. Then I see Rusty take aim again and again. After 6 direct hits, Stacy sets down her fork and quietly says, "Excuse me, ladies." She walks over to Rusty. He's so busy laughing with the Dylans that he doesn't know Stacy putting her hand on his bony shoulder. But he starts paying attention when she smiles at him and says in a sticky, sweet voice, "You like me, don't you?" Everyone within earshot turns and looks. Rusty looks too. "Huh? You do," Stacy squeals. "You like me." Then she puts her arm around him and practically sits on his lap. Now everyone in the whole lunchroom is turning and looking. Rusty peels Stacy's arm off his shoulder like it's a poisonous snake. Stacy puts it back. Everyone laughs. Then the Dylans start singing, "Rusty like Stacy, Rusty like Stacy." Stacy smiles and scoots even closer to him. By the 3rd round of the song, the lunchroom sounds like a choir, and Rusty's ears look as red as his hair. He wiggles out from under Stacy and bolts out the door. I sit there, staring at Stacy Merriweather and wondering how a person with 6 spitballs stuck in her hair can do something like that. Then Stacy gets up and walks back to our table. She sits down, picks up her fork, and finishes every last bite of her lunch. Well, as you can imagine, that kids will be excited to hear that passage and want to know what happens with those characters. I'd like to point out that the author of the book is sitting in our audience today, Julie Bovey, right over here. Thank you very much for permission for reading that long passage there. Well, even though I have hundreds and hundreds of recommendations, there are certain books I keep going back to, my fallback list, including My Last Best Friend. And here are a few of them. Very quickly, I'll just kind of go through. All About Sam by Lois Lowry. A lot of us know that Lois Lowry is a 2-time Newbery Award winner for The Giver and Number of the Stars. Very heavy topics, but she's also one of our funniest authors, too. She's got a Gooneyberg series out. She's got Anastasia Krupnik, who's up there in the picture with her brother Sam, and Sam has his own books also. And there's a passage in here I like to read to kids. I'll just tell you very quickly. Sam is a preschooler. He wants to make a big impression at show and tell. He wants something special. So he brings something special from home, and when the teacher says, Sam, it's your turn, he pulls out his father's pipe and his father's lighter. And he's about to demonstrate how he and his father sit around smoking. He's making that part up when the teacher says, hold it right there, Sam Krupnick, what are you doing? And he's kind of caught, with borrowing when he shouldn't have. A lot of you know the Junie B. Jones books. Barbara Park, one of our funniest authors out there, too. You can read almost any section of any Junie B. Jones book and get kids hooked on the series there. I particularly like Junie B. Jones Has a Monster Under Her Bed, the opening chapter where she frets about getting her classroom picture taken while she's making a funny face. The Pepins and Their Problems by Polly Horvath is about a numbskull type of family who don't always think very clearly, and kids like to be superior to people like that. You can see that they're up on a roof. Don't ask me how they get up there. It's too long to tell you how that happened. And the ladder fell down. And so they're wondering how they're going to get down. And the neighbors come over and they say, what are you doing up there? And they said, we got stuck, the ladder fell down. The neighbors look at the ladder and go, oh, well, what are you going to do about it? And they come up with these elaborate practices to get down. And one of them involves getting equipment from the neighbors' garages. And so the neighbors go get these things, they set the ladder up, go hand the stuff to the people, then go back down and set the ladder down and wait for them to get off the roof. Andrew Clements, who wrote Frindle and a lot of other school-setting books, has a few books with Jake Drake. Class Clown. In this particular book, Jake is upset that the new student teacher is too strict about the spelling bee rules. She says, spell the word, say the word, then spell it, then say it again. And kids keep getting those directions messed up. And the teacher says, well, then you're out. So when it's Jake's turn, he wants to spell the word is mouse. And he goes, mouse, M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. And the teacher goes, that's not funny. And then he goes, well, I guess I'm out. You can see where kids will be excited about that. Time Warp Trio by John Cheska is a series that are humorous stories of time travel through magic. The boys go back and forth in time and the future. In Nights in the Kitchen Table, I like to read chapter 3 to the kids, where the boys, through magic, are transported to the days of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and they are faced by the charging Black Knight. The SOS File by Betsy Beyer and a couple other authors there. Betsy Beyer is the primary author on this one. Each chapter is a good read aloud in its own. They're a series of reports from school where a teacher says, write about a time you needed help. And some of them are very heartwarming, and some of them are laugh out funny. And then the last one, Toys Go Out. A lot of you in the audience here are familiar. I like to read this one all the time. This is Anthropomorphic Toys, kind of written in the style of A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh series. And I like to read the chapter here where the stuffed buffalo meets the washing machine in the basement. And one great experience I had was that when I was at a school in Minnesota, I was doing a storytelling presentation for an audience of 200 kids in an auditorium. And I thought to myself, I've read to classroom size and smaller, and my own kids on my lap, but I've never read to 200 kids before. How's that going to work? And I decided to do it with that scene with the washing machine and Toys Go Out. And it was perfect. The kids were all just leaning forward, listening, and the librarian came up afterwards and says, we're going to order that book. And I thought, well, I should get some of that royalty, don't you think? So anyways, these are some of my favorites. And most of these are books that I use in my profession when I go out and talk to kids. I do have a lot of memories from being a father, great memories of sharing certain books with kids. I'll share 2 of those with you. Yeah, Where the Red Fern Grows. Yeah, you know that one, right? It's a dog story. It breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. When I saw Jim Trelease speak, he talked about reading this book to his teenage son, and then he gets to that certain scene, you guys know which scene that is, right, where he just breaks down and cries. And I go, oh, wow, what a great memory, Jim Trelease, that you have. And so I was reading it to my kids, and I get to that scene, and all of a sudden I can't proceed. I'm choking up. And I go, sorry, kids, Dad needs a moment. And they're like, it's okay, Dad. It's okay. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. I read the first 4 Harry Potter books to my youngest child, Sam. And then when we read the fourth one, this is like the 730-page one. And I would come home from work, and we'd read a couple chapters before bed. And then this was in the summer, so we didn't have to worry about school the next day. But we got to like page 500, and it's the fourth Harry Potter book. You know that one. And it was like 9:30 at night, and we're on page 500, and we look at each other and go, we can't stop now. So we just we're sitting on the couch, and we just, let's go for it. Okay, all right. And I'm reading, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and I'm losing my voice. And somehow in the next 3 hours, it was around midnight when we finished, we went from the couch to the floor. I don't remember that happening. And our heads were against the wall with the book, and we just got to the end, and we went, whoa! And I have that memory, even though we had to wait a year for the next volume at that time. So those are great memories, too. Now, if anybody would like the age index and subject index of my 2 read-aloud books, send me an email. And I'm not talking to the group in the lecture room here. I'm talking about people out there on the internet and television there. You guys, too. That's all right. You can just go up to my office and do it. I am more than happy to share those. Otherwise, you can get my books, my read-aloud books from the library through interlibrary loan. My subject indexes include recommendations for animal stories, family stories, school stories, historical fiction, fantasy, science fiction, horror, humor, mystery, outdoor survival, stories set in other countries, people with disabilities, other aspects of diversity, folklore, biographies, short story collections, and more. I continue to update my lists, particularly because of my deadlines with my Book Links article. I just finished this book up on the screen last week, and I thought, just in time for this lecture. And it's The League of Beastly Dreadfuls by Holly Grant. And the way I'm already describing this book, because I'm telling everybody I can see about this book, is that she writes like a combination of Lemony Snicket and Roald Dahl and Kate DiCamillo and Charles Dickens all rolled up into one. So I have a couple short passages from this one. Just enough introduction to let you know that Anastasia is told that her parents had met their demise in a freak vacuum cleaner accident, and that 2 aunts that she never knew about scoop her up and take her to their home, which is a former insane asylum. Reader, there are no greeting cards for many occasions. There are cards for holidays. There are Hanukkah and Christmas cards and soppy pink Valentines trimmed in lace, and get well soon cards. There are even thank you for pet sitting cards. However, as of the printing of this book, no card manufacturer has ever marketed a congratulations on your very first premonition of doom card, nor can you easily find a sorry you're frightened out of your gourd because you're locked in a former lunatic asylum in the middle of nowhere on the day your parents were mangled in a freak vacuuming accident card. It's a shame, because a card like one of those would have been perfect for Anastasia at this dreary point in our story. Isn't that fun, just to read aloud? Here's another part where she's looking around this asylum, and she's kind of trapped. She questions, was the asylum on fire? Anastasia rammed the door with her shoulder, panic swelling her tonsils. The wood moaned but refused to budge. Crumbs! Twisting herself like a Bavarian pretzel, she placed the soles of her galoshes against the door and kicked with all her might. The door burst open, and out tumbled Anastasia. Hurdy-gurdy, head over heels, nose over toes, bum over tea kettle, right into another one of Asylum's mysterious armpits. Okay. So what makes a good read aloud, besides having the words just tumble off like that last one there? Well, first of all, the book should hold the reader's attention, the adult, as well as the young audience's attention. C.S. Lewis says, a children's story is the best art form for something to say. A children's story which is enjoyed only by children is a bad children's story. Now, I try to do my best to imagine many scenarios of young listening audiences, so I don't limit my choice to adult male interests. And working with kids and having kids of my own has helped me develop empathy towards their tastes. And young people going into education in the library field, you are developing those skills as well. At least you should be. 2, the writing must flow and be a delight to read it out loud, like that passage I just read. Fun on the tongue is how I put it. Physically pleasing to say out loud. 3, if reading several books, look for a balance of protagonists of both genders, particularly if you're working with like a classroom size. I should also add a variety of genres here. I know a lot of people read one fantasy after another, and then they might miss out on the pleasure of a historical fiction book or contemporary realism. This helps develop that window metaphor, looking at new experiences or characters unlike yourself by looking through a window at them while listening to a story. 4, don't always pick the award winners. Just because it won an award doesn't mean that it is the best one to read aloud. Now, a lot of award winners are excellent to read aloud, but there's also a lot of other great read-alouds out there that don't win awards and are still worthy of sharing. And then 5, be careful about picking books with a more sensitive nature. There's a lot of books out there that are better for the reader to read on their own and not to share with somebody else. So you think of books like Judy Blume's books, somebody going through puberty or other sensitive topics, or books that have a strong language. Now, I find that if there's a book I like that has strong language, and everybody has different measurements on what strong language is, feel free to skip some of those words if they make you uncomfortable, or you might swap out some words. I might say but instead of ass, or bleep instead of, I prefer to sell those books to individuals kind of more through a book talk approach instead of read aloud. So those are just some simple candidates for that. And then for tips themselves, I think the biggest one is know your audience. If it's 1 or 2 kids, you know them very well. If it's a classroom-sized group or an auditorium full of listeners too, you kind of know, you can kind of gauge what they can handle. There are some kids that would love Coraline by Neil Gaiman, a really creepy, scary book, and there's other kids that couldn't handle it. So you have to kind of be able to know that. Some can relate to a story like Joey Pigza Swallowed the Key, where Joey, a boy with attention deficit disorder, other kids might be immature enough, they might make fun of someone who is like Joey. They might point to someone who's like Joey in their group, but hopefully they'd be mature enough to handle that. Remember that listening age ranges are broader than reading age levels. Now, most kindergartners cannot read Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo, but they can certainly enjoy listening to it. In fact, a local school a few years back had all of the teachers, all the classrooms, K through 5, read the same book to all of the kids with great success. Number 3, book topics are broader when reading to a captive audience. I have Princess Academy up there by Shannon Hale. I argue that this is a good book to share with boys. It's got adventure, kidnapping, a smart protagonist. Now, boys won't pick it up because of the title and the cover, but if they are listening, they're a captive audience, they will enjoy it. I'd like to think the same is true of My Last Best Friend. Do you get a lot of boys reading their book too, okay? Spitballs in a girl's hair? Hey, guys, listen to this. That's their selling point, right? 4, choose books you've read. You won't believe the number of adults, mostly teachers, who come to me and say, I was reading this book to a group of kids, and then this embarrassing scene happened. It just showed up, and I don't feel sorry for that teacher. Read it ahead of time. So so that you can practice reading it, and then you could be prepared for those potential embarrassing scenes. Choose books you enjoy. Goes without saying. Practice saying names, foreign phrases, and vocabulary words ahead of time. And number 7, be an entertainer with your voice and expressions. And the key to that is being enthusiastic. The rest comes easy. Don't overdo it. Don't worry about being an actor, a ham. Don't worry about keeping track of several different character voices. Follow the author's lead. A lot of authors read their work aloud as they write, and they know how it should sound. And then if you do that, if you follow the author's lead, you'll know when to add tension, when to add lighthearted humor, and everything in between. Here's a passage from a recent Newbery Award winner. Yes, yes, it was an award winner. This one deserved it, and it's a good read aloud too. By Kate DiCamillo, one of our Minnesota writers, from Flora and Ulysses. And this is just, I'm cobbled a couple of paragraphs together from the beginning of the story here. Listen to this one. She was interrupted a few minutes later by a very loud noise. It sounded as if a jet plane had landed in the Tickums' backyard. "What the heck?" said Flora. She got up from her desk and looked out the window and saw Mrs. Tickum running around the backyard with a shiny, oversized vacuum cleaner. It looked like she was vacuuming her yard. That can't be, thought Flora. Who vacuums their yard? Actually, it didn't look like Mrs. Tickum knew what she was doing. It was more like the vacuum cleaner was in charge, and the vacuum cleaner seemed to be out of its mind, or its engine, or something. "A few bolts shy of a load," said Flora out loud. And then she saw that Mrs. Tickum and the vacuum cleaner were headed directly for a squirrel. "Hey now," said Flora. She banged out the window. "Watch out," she shouted. "You're going to vacuum up that squirrel." She said the words, and then she had a strange moment of seeing them hanging there over her head. "You're going to vacuum up the squirrel." There is just no predicting what kind of sentences you might say, thought Flora. For instance, who would ever think you would shout, "You're going to vacuum up that squirrel"? Didn't make any difference, though, what word she said. Flora was too far away. The vacuum cleaner was too loud, and clearly it was bent on destruction. "This malfeasance must be stopped," said Flora in a deep and superheroic voice. She stood at the window and watched as the squirrel was vacuumed up. Poof! Fwump! "Holy bagumba," said Flora. Almost like poetry coming off it, just fun. Like I said, physically pleasing. And speaking of poetry, there's a lot of wonderful poetry collections out there. We shouldn't forget them. There's a lot of novels in verse. This is kind of a popular format of late where the narrative is told through a series of poems. Some of my favorites here include Karen Hess's Out of the Dust, a series of poems that talk about one family's ordeal during the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl era. She did such a good job, I felt like I had to brush my teeth and take a shower afterwards through that. Love That Dog, which a lot of you know, is also a favorite one where a boy he expresses a dislike for poetry at the end, discovers that he likes poetry and it also helps him with the healing process. Maybe is a novel that I would recommend for fans of the Little House books. And it's about a young woman who's hired to go work for a couple living out in the prairie, and then they leave her alone and she's stranded in the middle of a storm. Inside Out and Back Again, which is a novel in verse about the Vietnamese immigration experience. And then two biographies in verse, The Poet Slave of Cuba, which was an actual poet who was enslaved. He was bought by a woman who considered him her son but mistreated him severely. And then Carver, A Life in Poems by Marilyn Nelson, which is a biography of George Washington Carver, but done all in poems. And I'd like to read two little selections from that book here. This first one is called Green Thumb Boy, and it's given from the perspective of a professor, Dr. L.H. Pummel, and he is talking about how impressed he is with Carver. "We had doubts about giving him a class to teach, but he's done a bang-up job with the greenhouse. His students see the light of genius through the dusky window of his skin. Just yesterday, that new boy, what's-his-name, from Arkansas, tried to raise a ruckus when Carver put his dinner tray down. He cleared his throat, stared, rattled his own tray, scraped his chair legs in a rush to move away. Carver ate on in silence. Then the boys at the table the new boy had moved to cleared their throats, rattled their trays, and scraped their chairs as they got up and moved to Carver's table. Something about the man does that, raises the best in you. I've never asked what. I guess I'll put his name next to mine on that article I'm sending out." And then another one called Chemistry 101, in which Carver is actually teaching a chemistry class. A canvas apron over his street clothes. Carver leads his chemistry class into the college dump. The students follow, a clack of ducklings hatched by hens. where he sees a retort, a Bunsen burner, a mortar, zinc sulfate. They see a broken bowl, a broken lantern, a rusty old flat iron, a fruit jar top. Their tangle of twine, his lace. He turns, a 6-inch length of copper tubing in one hand. Now, what can we do with this? 2 by 2, little lights go on. 1 by hesitant 1, dark hands are raised. The waters of imagining their element. Just loved reading poetry aloud, and it's a good way to kind of share it with kids too. Now, you've probably noticed I've spent most of this lecture so far focusing on chapter books. I could spend an entire lecture on informational books and biographies as well as an hour on picture books. Now, picture books are always fun to share, and here is a brand new one by author-illustrator Mike Wanutka of Minnesota. Many picture storybooks have the illustrations tell the story where the words leave off. So pace yourself so that you make sure that your young audience can see the images and process what the images are saying. So let's take a look at this one here. This is Oliver, and this is Oliver's dad. And if you've ever seen Mike, he must have done the illustrations while looking at a mirror. All summer they played together, laughed together, sang together, and read together. On the first day of school, Oliver's dad didn't feel good. My tummy hurts. It's okay, Dad. You're just a little nervous. Come on, let's go. We don't want to be late for the first day of school. But Oliver's dad had a few things he needed to do before they left. Just love this picture. Daddy, what are you doing? We need to go now. So Oliver's dad hid behind the couch. Oliver found him. He hid inside the closet. Oliver found him. He hid outside. Daddy! Oliver found him and dragged him to the car. Oliver's dad drove very slowly. You're probably going to really miss me when you're at school, Oliver. Sure, Daddy. When they got to school, Oliver ran to his classroom and met his teacher. So nice to meet you, Oliver. My tummy really hurts. Then it was time to say goodbye. Bye, Daddy. Daddy? 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 The teacher walked Oliver's dad outside. My favorite picture of the book. Bye, Daddy. Oliver's dad drove home. He couldn't stop thinking about Oliver. He worried about Oliver, he missed Oliver, and his tummy really, really hurt. Then he realized, I'm not ready for school. Oliver's dad drove back to school. He ran to the classroom, and just before he opened the door, he stopped. He couldn't believe what he saw. Oliver was playing. He was laughing. Then he was singing and reading. Oliver's dad smiled. Oliver and his dad were ready for school. And after the first day of school, they celebrated until their tummies hurt. Good job, Daddy. Yeah, isn't it cool? Thank you to Mike for letting me, gave permission to show all those images up here too. I ran into Mike one time too also. He's the guy who did the illustrations for Moo, written by David LaRochelle, and oh look, it's autographed. Yeah, they're well trained. Okay, good. And so it's the word moo over and over and over. And I ran into Mike one time at a book festival, and I said, how do you read this moo, and how do you read that moo? And he said, however you want to. And I think that's just kind of an overriding message here, however you want to read it. Now, when you're reading, consider singing. Consider singing. And there's a lot of picture books out there that are actually song lyrics. Catalina, Magdalena, Hoopensteiner, Wollendiner, Hogan, Logan, Bogan was her name, an old camp song. And you might have learned a different version because in the back, Ted Arnold has a list of all the different fun names you can have. Do your ears hang low? Do they wobble to and fro? And this one particularly by Carolyn Jane Church opens up and a big fold out of the dog's ears come out. Little Bonnie Foo Foo. Now, wouldn't it be fun just to hold a picture book with the kid while you're singing that with them, too? Very good. How much is that doggy in the window? And he's got the whole world in his hand. So, we're going to get to the music portion of tonight's lecture. Now, there's a lot of versions of Old MacDonald Had a Farm out there. And, of course, a lot of different illustrators and authors want to come up with their own version. Judy Sierra wrote E-I-E-I-O, How Old MacDonald Got His Farm. He used to live in a house. He had a lawn with a momo here and a momo there. Old MacDonald had a wood shop where the lamb MacDonald, sheep MacDonald, with a sh here and a sh here and a bang bang here and a bang bang there. Ms. MacDonald had a class where the kids do snip snip here with the scissors, and paint here. And so I've come up with a different Old MacDonald version. I find that if you share a song, whether it's in a picture book format or just sing it to them without the book, they love knowing the basic song, and then if there's new versions, they like those too. And so I always come up with new words. And so one time I was doing kind of a lesson plan dealing with the letter O, and I picked Old MacDonald because Old MacDonald begins with the letter O, right? But I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have everything on Old MacDonald's farm begin with the letter O? Now, there's not a lot of farm animals that begin with the letter O, so we kind of broaden our thing. And so I thought of an owl, all right? So if we do an owl with the format of Old MacDonald, we have to come up with a gesture. So how about an owl wing? And the owl, so here we go. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on his farm he had an owl, E-I-E-I-O, with a here and a, everybody now, here a, there, everywhere. Okay, good. It took some of your wings a little longer to get going there. So while I was working on this, I was hired to do some stories up on Madeline Island at the La Pointe Public Library there. And it was a summer, and we were out in the yard there. It was a beautiful summer night. And I told the crowd I was working on this, and right away a little girl goes, "Ogre!" And I go, "How are we going to do ogre?" And she did this. And on his farm he had an ogre. E-I-E-I-O, with a R-R here and R-R there, here a R, there a R, everywhere R-R. And it was funny because she was about this big when she did that. And then a boy shouted out octopus. And I go, octopuses don't make any noises. How are we going to do that? And he came up with a hug here and a hug there, here a hug, there a hug, everywhere a hug. And then one of the moms in the back said, onion. So guess what we did with onion? And on his farm he had an onion, E-I-E-I-O, with a here and a boo-hoo there, here a boo, there a boo, everywhere a boo-boo. Okay, so I took those verses and I put it in one of my music books there. And I wrote that book too soon because then I'd go out to different libraries and I'd do it and get more suggestions. And my all-time favorite suggestion was when somebody said Old MacDonald had an opera with here and there, here, there, everywhere. Old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E-I. Okay, that was passable. Wheels on the bus. You guys all know Wheels on the Bus, right? Yeah, the wheels on the bus go round and round. And the people on the bus go up and down, and the wipers on the bus go swish, 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 and the baby on the bus goes wah, 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 and the parents on the bus go shh, shh, shh. Well, here's a few other versions. There's Wheels on the School Bus, where it's full of teachers are going on a field trip. So the librarian says, read, 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 and the other teachers do their things. This is one book I thought, oh, I wish I thought of this one. The Seals on the Bus, full of animals. The seals on the bus go or. The snakes on the bus go, I'm sorry, it's the vipers. The vipers on the bus go, vipers. Okay, now you get it, okay. And the skunk on the bus goes, psh, psh, psh. That's near the end, and the last one is the people on the bus go, help, help, help. So I came up with my own. I need you guys to kind of help out with this one. We're going to get off the bus now, and we're going to get into a nice, red, shiny sports car. Yeah, thank you. The wheels of the car go round and round and round, round and round and round, round and round and round. The wheels of the car go round and round and round, all around the town. The horn on the car goes meep, 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 meep. The horn on the car goes all around the town. You're going to like this one. The motor on the car goes, okay? So basically you spit quiet, spit loud, spit quiet, okay? The motor on the car goes, let's try one more time. The motor on the car goes all around the town. All right, let's get out of this car because I'm teaching you bad driving habits. It's unsafe, and besides, the front row's getting a little wet here. So let's get into a rocket ship. The boosters on the rocket go, the boosters of the rocket go up above in space. The people on the rocket go, the radio on the rocket goes,
Houston, I'm getting a trouble transmission here.
the radio on the rocket goes,
I can't understand a word you're saying.
up above in space. The people in the rocket go, hey, I'm floating. Hey, I'm floating. Hey, I'm floating. The people on the rocket go, hey, up above in space. Okay, let's land this rocket now. We're going to get into the most exciting mode of transport I can think of. Are you ready? Here it goes. It's a donkey cart. The wheels of the cart go clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. The wheels on the cart go clickety-clack all around the town. The driver in the cart goes, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up. The driver on the cart goes, giddy up, all around the town. The donkey on the cart goes, hee-haw. The donkey on the cart goes, all around the town. The kids on the cart sing, that's all, that's all, that's all. The kids on the cart sing, all around the town. That's all for music we'll do right now. Thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourselves a triangle of applause. Give yourselves a rectangle of applause. Give yourselves a rhomboid trapezoid of applause. Yeah, I had a math teacher come up and say there's no such thing. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to talk about very shortly, I could go on and on about this one, but is storytelling. Storytelling is a wonderful companion to reading aloud. You have the extra bonus of having that direct link between the storyteller and the listener. The Exploding Frog is a story I've told hundreds of times over the years. It's basically called The Ox and the Frog. It's an Aesop fable. This book now is long out of print, The Exploding Frog and Other Fables from Aesop, retold by John McFarlane, illustrated by James Marshall. And the basic premise of this story is that a frog hears about an ox. He says, I can get as big as that ox. And then he explodes. And the last page of this, and the book is out of print, I can't find a copy of it anywhere. It has green bits of frog going in all directions. And I thought to myself, that looks like a balloon when it pops. So I go around and I tell this story with a balloon now. And once upon a time, there were these two little frogs playing leapfrog, and guess how high I could jump? And they were down by a creek. Down there also was a great big granddaddy bullfrog. I got him right here. There, you see him? Proves it's a true story, right? He was taking a nap. While he was sleeping, the little frogs were playing. A great big ox came down to get a drink. And the little frogs, that's all they could talk about was how big he was, even after the ox left. Well, they talked and talked so much that they finally woke up the great big granddaddy bullfrog. He listened for a few minutes and he said, you know, what you're describing is just an ordinary ox. They're not so big. Why, if I tried hard enough, I could get as big as that ox. The little tiny frog said, oh, no, you could. And he said, oh, yeah, well, stand back and watch this. So he stretched the skin this way. He stretched his skin that way. He got bigger and bigger, bit by bit, just like this. There, he said, was that ox as big as this? The little tiny frog shook her head and said, no, no, he was bigger. He was bigger. Bigger, huh? Okay, I can get a little bit bigger. So he stretched a little more. There, he said, was that ox as big as this? The little tiny frog shook their heads and said, no, no, he was bigger. He was... Bigger. You guys want bigger? Bigger. Bigger. Okay, I can get a little bit bigger, he said. So he stretched a little more. Was that ox as big as this? The little tiny frog shook their head and said, no, he was bigger. You want bigger. Okay, I can get a little bit bigger. So he stretched a little more. What's the matter with you guys? He stretched a little more.
Was he as big as this?
The little tiny frogs shook their head and said, no, he was bigger. Okay, I could get a little bit bigger. So he stretched a little more. The little tiny frogs picked up what was left of that great big granddaddy bullfrog, and they said, he was almost as big as that ox, but not quite big enough. And that's the story of Aesop's exploding frog. All right. I wasn't going to blow it up here at the last minute because I was worried about the microphone and everything. I even told the crew, I just let it go. Because if you let it go, it goes and it gets just as big a laugh from kids as the blowing up part. I do tell older kids if they want to use the balloon, make sure that they blow it up beforehand so they know how big it gets, because when it's nice and tight, if you pinch it, it explodes. If you don't have a lot of air in it, you wind up wrestling with it. But you also don't want it to blow up too soon. And there's been a few times where I've been blowing it and it blew up in my face, and it could cut your lip pretty bad. And when you're in front of a bunch of preschoolers, okay, ignore the bleeding storyteller. Doesn't work very well. So my favorite story about this story is one time I was asked to do a story program down by Lake Geneva in Darien, Wisconsin. And back in the 1980s, the librarian's name in Darien was Marion. Marion the librarian in Darien. True story, I'm not making this up. And I went in and said, I'm your storyteller. She said, upstairs. And at that time, the Darien Public Library was a modified 1.5-story house. And so I went up there to the children's room, which was the attic, and the roof was this far from my head. And I noticed on their poster they had a juggler in the following week. I wondered, how is that going to work? And so I had an audience of a 9-year-old boy, 2 little preschool girls, and 3 young women who came with the girls. I thought, and this was a great thought back then, right? I thought I'll start off with the exploding frog. So I blow up the balloon, pinch it, bang. Next sound I heard was wah. The 2 women picked up the 3 little girls and they left. And it was me and the 9-year-old boy. And I had 45 minutes to kill. And I said after the second story, because he started doing this thing, did you have enough? And he goes, yeah, and he left. So that was my storytelling experience there. So shoot ahead about 11 years or so, 12 years, 13 years. I had just written my book, Something Funny Happened at the Library. And I was asked to do a workshop in the neighboring town of Burlington for librarians, to teach librarians how to be funny. And I said, it's nice to be here, not too far from Darien. I have a funny story about that. And I told the story I just told you there. And one of the librarians in the back goes, that was my son. I go, you're kidding. How old is he now? 21. He never went back to the library after that day. So yeah, Rob Reed, he doesn't make literature come alive for kids. He scares kids from the library. All right. We're going to close today's program with a retelling of The Enormous Turnip. Now, there's a lot of picture books that share this tale from Europe. Basically, a farmer plants a turnip seed. It grows to such a gigantic size, he can't pull it out. His wife comes, the 2 of them can't pull it out. Their kids come one by one, they can't pull it out. The animals come, they can't pull it out until a little mouse joins in the line, and when the mouse tugs with them, they pull it out. When I was a librarian, every September, we had big requests for books about apples, mostly daycare providers. And they would come in and wipe us out. We'd spent a lot of money on apple books, and they'd wipe us out. And then the person who just got a job would come in and say, hey, I need a picture book about apples tomorrow. And we go, no, they're long gone. And I felt bad for them. So I came up with an apple version of The Enormous Turnip for them that they could tell to their kids after hearing it one time. And I like to share this story with kids come up from the audience. So I need some actors here. I need an apple tree. We're going to have my apple tree. Thank you very much for volunteering. I was thinking of different animals that live in Wisconsin that eat apples, and I need a pig. So I need someone to get big. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I need my pig. I need a goat. Great. I need a llama, because we have a lot of llama farms around here. So I need a llama. Great, Sam, over here. Okay. I need a horse. Very quickly. Great. Over here. All right, you guys over here. You're my tree, right? You guys over there. That's far enough. My tree right here. My tree's going to be right here. Okay. And the hero of our story, the worm. Thank you, sir, in the red there. Thank you for volunteering for Be the Worm. Thank you very much. That's what you get for your son marrying my daughter. Okay. There. Okay, put this down here. All right. Now, the rest of you, I know you said, oh, darn, he didn't pick me. But there's a part for you, too. Okay, all right. So, okay, now you can put your branches up. Okay. The biggest, juiciest tree in the whole orchard started as a small blossom. Do you see it right there? It grew until it was the size of a tennis ball. It grew until it was the size of a bowling ball. It grew until it was the size of a watermelon. The apple grew and grew and grew until it was as big as the tree. Pig was the first one into the orchard. Oh, very good. Pig saw the apple. Here, why don't you stand up, Pig, so the camera can see you. Pig saw the apple. His eyes grew wide. His jaw dropped. Okay. He said, that must be the biggest, juiciest apple in the whole orchard. I want it. So he grabbed onto that apple, and he pulled. And audience, this is where you can help. He pulled, and he pulled, and he pulled. The tree bent way over. Yeah, I'm glad you went that way, because I've had college students go this direction. They have to drop my class and take Physics 101. Okay? But the apple stuck tight to the branch. Take 2 steps back. All right, good. All right. Next into the orchard was the goat. Come on in, goat. Goat saw the apple. Her eyes grew wide. Her jaw dropped. She said, that must be the biggest, juiciest apple in the whole orchard. I want it. Pig grunted at her. Yeah, said, I saw it first, but I guess there's enough for both of us. So they switched places. Goat pulled pig. Pig, don't pull the tree, pull the apple. There you go. Pig pulled the apple, and they pulled, and they. You guys got to use your body English there. The apple stuck tight on the branch. Okay, you guys take 2 steps back here. Llama strolled in from a nearby llama farm. Llama saw the apple. Her eyes grew wide. Her jaw dropped. She said, that must be the biggest, juiciest apple in the whole orchard. I want it. The other 2 animals grunted at her. They said, we saw it first, but we guess there's enough for all of us. So llama got to the end of the line. Come a little closer here. Llama pulled goat. Goat pulled pig. Pig pulled the apple, and they. Tree bent way, way, way over. Feel the burn, tree. But the apple stuck tight to the branch. Okay, you can stand up. All right, take 2 steps over. There you go. Horse galloped into the orchard. Horse saw the apple. Her eyes grew wide. Her jaw dropped. She said, that must be the biggest, juiciest apple in the whole orchard. I want it. The other animals grunted at her. They said, we saw it first, but we guess there's enough for all of us. So horse went to the end of the line. Horse pulled llama. Llama pulled goat. Goat pulled pig. Pig pulled the apple, and they. But the apple stuck tight to the branch. Oh, worm came into the orchard. Come right over here, worm. Worm saw the apple. His eyes grew wide. His jaw dropped. He said, that must be the biggest, juiciest apple in the whole orchard. I want it. The other animal said, you're too puny to help. Why don't you just scram? Say scram.
Scram.
He said, I'm not too puny. I can help. So he went to the end of the line. Worm pulled horse. I'm not sure how, but worm pulled horse. Horse pulled llama. Llama pulled goat. Goat pulled pig. Pig pulled the apple, and they freeze. And while the 4 animals in front were still pulling, they said one more time to worm, scram, worm.
Scram, worm.
So worm simply let go. The tree snapped in the other direction, sending the 4 animals in front tumbling through the air where they disappeared out of sight. There we go. There we go. Then the tree snapped in the other direction, sending the apple high into the air where it did an apple turnover. Thought of that one myself. Headed straight for worm. His eyes grew wide. His jaw dropped. Moments before the apple landed, he dug a hole in the ground and disappeared, and the apple landed with a plop. Give me a big plop noise. Come back, worm. You're going out of camera here. All right. Worm was trapped. Did he worry? No. Did he fret? No, he's a worm, it's an apple. He simply smiled the biggest smile a worm can smile. And he began to chew his way through that apple. He chewed and chewed and chewed and spent a very long time in the middle of the biggest, juiciest apple in the whole orchard. Tree, you can drop your arms. Worm joined the tree. 4 animals tumbled back into sight and get right up in here in the front row here, and everybody take a bow to thunderous applause. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. All right, good job. All right, well, that's just a little snippet of things we could do to make literature come alive for kids. I want all of you to go out there, read to kids, sing to kids, and tell stories to kids. Thank you.